You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
We're recording and we're going live. I'll let you know.
You already hit the record button over there?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool.
Boiler up, hammer down.
Boiler up.
There we are. We are live to the Patreon. Not the Patreon, the regular group now.
BTFU, I think, is that's what the kids say. So I'm sharing this to the world here. Live now. Kent, do you do Facebook? Are you a Facebooker?
No, I'm LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, I got off Facebook about 5 years ago.
Probably a smart move.
Yeah, if it wasn't.
Oh, it was. It was.
If it wasn't for the show, it probably wouldn't.
Yeah. I wouldn't be on it. I wouldn't be on Facebook if it wasn't for this.
Well, there's just too many distractions, and some of the things that are posted on there, I don't have time for.
Understand.
That's why I joined the LinkedIn, more professional.
There you go. All right. Well, we will welcome everybody to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 105 of East Central Indiana's favorite podcast. I'm Jeremiah Morrell. Today I'm joined by co-host Dakota Davis. Over on my right is Kade Koger, and we got producer Chris Guffey.
Hello.
Today's episode is featuring Mr. Kent Benson, who is a local hometown hero, a Newcastle legend. Kent played college basketball for IU. Not just played, though. He ended up leading a almost undefeated season.
Season.
Undefeated? Well, I'm talking about 74.
75.
Yeah, you guys only lost one game that season. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, in 75 or the 76 season, you guys were the national champions.
Undefeated national champions.
Yeah.
And no one's done it since 43 years.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know that fact. Well, of course you know more than what I do. You were there. So you also played 11 seasons in the NBA, and then also went and played basketball in Italy. So we're going to be talking to Kent about all those things. And then we are going to be talking about the city of Newcastle, because even though Kent got to play basketball everywhere, even in Italy, he still came back to the city of Newcastle. So we're going to talk about that. Make sure you stick around to the very end to hear it.
There we go. We do want to thank all of our Patreon folks that help support the show. You guys are what makes the world go around. This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. As always, we promise episodes are going to be a fun and an easy listen. Patreon thank you list.
Yes, we need to thank all of you people that keep the lights on, keep the bills paid, and the internet running over here, and pay producer Chris Guffey's salary,
which is 2% into my 401k of a zero salary.
But if you invest it wisely.
So thank you, Christopher Bilbrey, Brantley Spicer, Christy Avery, Jonathan Phillips, and Craig DeCosta. You guys are the top contributors on Patreon. Also, we want to pitch the Amazon wish list for a minute today. On the Amazon wish list, we do have some new equipment for video streaming to make this side of the production a lot better for everybody that's watching.
You want to go from a 1-camera setup to a 3-camera setup so that we can really test Chris Guffey and his abilities. And
he'll be able to put graphics on the screen. He'll be able to play videos superimposed onto our video as it's streaming live. Can do all kinds of really cool things. So head over to the Amazon wish list if you want to contribute to that cause.
You guys are running out of TV services to offer me.
You have been paid. Originally, I was paying you just in Netflix, and tonight, really more for my convenience. I gave you my YouTube TV subscription. I added you to the family.
Yep.
And immediately my wife messaged, and apparently she got an email saying that Chris Guffey was added to our family.
I also got an email.
Because you're a lurker, too. But it was really for my convenience, because I'm like, I want you to play the game, and I don't want to give him my YouTube. So now with that laptop over there, he can cast it to the TV across the way, and we can watch the games.
Brilliant.
It's amazing. It's an incredible world we live in. Back in the day, Kent, if you wanted to watch a game, you had to get your rabbit ears out and watch Channel 4, right?
Channel 4, absolutely. And I remember being the channel changers as well.
You had to do it.
Or the volume up. You had to get up and turn the volume up or change the channel.
What do you do for TV nowadays? You have the cable connection. You got DirecTV. What's your what happens in the Benson household?
Metronet.
Metronet.
And I have the high speed internet as well.
Yep. We run our entire, all of this stuff runs on Metronet Internet.
Yeah.
That's the gigabit
fiber,
makes it possible.
That's fiber optics.
Yeah. And at gigabit, we've talked about a lot of times about the things Henry County has and Newcastle has. That fiber optic makes it possible for us to do a high definition video podcast from downtown Newcastle, Indiana.
Eventually with 3 cameras.
Eventually a 3-camera setup. We're going to keep pushing the limits. There's always some sort of a bottleneck. You don't know.
Yes.
It's a computer or it's sound equipment or it's cameras. It's
always improving.
You're always pushing. We've come a long way. It's ridiculous.
So if you are a Patreon member, then you got to hear us introduce Kent a little bit more. But for those of you who don't know and are just now coming in, you played basketball for Newcastle Chrysler then high school, right?
Walter P. Chrysler High School, yes.
And your Wikipedia entry says that you played for 3 seasons, but you corrected me earlier today. You actually played for 4 varsity seasons at Newcastle High School, right?
That's correct. I was the first freshman player since Jerry Ellis played back in 1948. He graduated with my mom and dad in 1951 and was a great player. And then Coach Cecil Tagg, my high school coach, I'll never forget the day that he came to our home and spoke with mom and dad and myself and said that he would like to bring me up to play on the varsity as a freshman. And of course, knowing that Jerry Ellis was a family friend and everything and the tremendous success that he had, why, it was a tremendous honor for me.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
And obviously at that time, Newcastle already had the field house. So you were coming into
not with
Jerry, but in your time when you got to play, you were playing in front of 8,500 to 10,000 people a night.
10,000 people.
This is a controversy that was in the Indy Star the other day. Seymour people got smaller or we got fatter. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden we don't fit as many people.
Well, the reason why is because they don't use the temporary bleachers.
Yes.
When I played, the temporary bleachers was set up around the concourse and, we packed the house and, it was great. The excitement, the town was painted up, for big games and everything. Just the excitement. We had a cheer block, of course, and the band, and there wasn't an empty seat in the house.
Have you
awesome.
Have you been attending the recent games, the sectionals this year and the sectionals last year, where we've been beyond capacity?
I usually do. This year I haven't because of some family situations, but it's a shame that the boys team was without Mason Gillis. I think they would have went a lot further in the tournament than they did had he been healthy. But at the same time, Purdue is protecting their asset as well. I think that I said asset, okay, in Mason because he's going to be a great player, I think.
So, and then in your time with Newcastle, you got the highest honor in state basketball. You were Mr. Basketball your senior year, correct?
I was, correct.
So that means you got the number 1 with the old school. They still use the uniform, but that iconic jersey photo.
That's correct.
And then you played the Kentucky game?
We played against the Kentucky All-Stars, yes. Home and home. We played down at Freedom Hall in Kentucky and then at Hinkle Fieldhouse here in Indianapolis.
Very cool. Beat them both times?
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't even remember now. It's been so long.
Your story has to be, of course we kicked their ass, right?
Of course.
Do you remember how many points and rebounds you had when you were in high school? Because now I don't trust the Wikipedia article that I read to get all my facts, but it said that you had 1,496 points and 1,585 rebounds your high school career. But it also said you only played varsity for 3 years. So
they're looking from 1970 to 73. They think that's 3 years. Actually, it's 4 years. 70
71,
seasons,
72, 73.
Exactly.
You were way better than
they just don't know how to count. Okay?
you were way better.
I learned how to count.
count.
This is a great story because when I was a sophomore at Newcastle here, I was in algebra class, and one of my favorite teachers of all times failed me because I earned the F. And her name was Cleo Orr. I'll never forget her. And she didn't change my grade so I could play. So I missed the first 3 games of my sophomore season. And, that was a great, learning opportunity for me. And it set the tone for me to make sure that I continue to maintain my grade so I would be eligible.
The expectations you don't just get to ride because you're an athlete, right?
Absolutely.
You have to perform.
And, we had great teachers. So we've had great teachers here in Newcastle. And of course, Aaron Dickin, his father was, one of the most popular and great friend of mine, Steve Dickin. And, I had him for English and speech and what have you. And, just great teachers during my era.
So as you're coming along and it's starting to look like, at 6'13", it's starting to look like you're probably going to have a career in college basketball, right? Was IU an automatic deal, or did you play the game and look around and say, I might go play for Ohio State or Purdue or Kentucky or
actually I had
Michigan?
I had an opportunity to play in every college in the country. Yeah. I was blessed to be recruited by them all through letters or phone calls and their interest. But I narrowed it down to 4 schools. At the time, being raised Roman Catholic, Notre Dame was on the pedestal. All right, it was number 1. Plus, my cousin was a great running back at Notre Dame in the early 70s, Andy Huff. And of course, Digger was a great coach and friend of our families as well. So Notre Dame was number 1. Number 2, believe it or not, was Purdue, because my agricultural background, a lot of my friends who went to Purdue. Third choice was Indiana University. And, of course, because of being here in Indiana, it was a great choice. And then last but not least was Kentucky. The land of beautiful horses and fast women. Anyway, I visited those 4 schools in a matter of 2 weeks. So I'd have a 2-day visit to each one. And first I visited those in that order, Notre Dame, Purdue, Indiana, and Kentucky. And had a great visit at all of them. But once I visited Indiana University, I felt that was the ideal place for me with Coach Knight, and even more so, all the players that I had around me. I saw that I would be able to fit into the whole concept of what Coach Knight wanted to accomplish.
So, and I don't know this. I don't know how the relationship was, obviously, from a distance. At my age, as I was coming of age, Coach Knight was just finishing up his tenure at IU. How was the atmosphere? I assume it was a strong authority type, if you do what you're supposed to do, you're going to be just fine playing under him and playing with him, on his teams? Absolutely.
Well, first of all, Coach is very demanding. He's very bombastic, and he's a drill sergeant. I mean, he
coached
from Army, and I'll never forget going into his office for the first time. He had a picture of General Patton on his desk, so that was his hero. So that gave you some indication as to how he was going to be.
I'm pretty sure Kade would have done okay playing for Coach Knight.
But, Coach Knight was very demanding, and Coach Knight also knows the potential of every player that he would recruit and how it would fit into his whole scheme of things, what he wanted to accomplish as far as a team and the success and everything. And so when you came to Indiana, he expected you to play to your potential, and he was willing to help you develop in whatever way and do whatever it took to help you accomplish that. Whether it be being bombastic and talking about every cuss and swear word there was, but when you separated that all out and focused on what he was talking about basketball, it made a big difference. It really helped me in my career to separate those out and not be offended by the vulgarity that he had all the time, and focused on the basketball. And once I was able to separate that, I was a better player.
Is there one thing he said that you needed to do to get better? Was it
no,
one thing?
There isn't just one thing. There was an array of things. So.
Yeah.
You never had to question where you stood with Coach Knight. You always knew.
Got my footwork right today, Coach.
And what he expected of you.
So he would probably rank pretty high as far as the most influential people in your basketball career.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He and my high school coach here, Coach Cecil Tagg. And I can't forget either my grade school coaches coming up playing in the CYO League at St. Anne's Grade School here in Newcastle and junior high. I mean, all my coaches and teachers were very influential.
It all builds,
to me.
doesn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. And, I was really blessed to have people that took an interest in me, not just as an athlete or as a basketball player, but as a person too, and as a Christian. And, I'm so blessed by that, because they encouraged me. They believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and believed in me long enough until which time I did believe in myself. So thankful for guys like Steve Beanie Schmidt, who was 6'11", played before me. Coach Cecil Tagg asked him to work with me, and as an 8th grader, he took me and worked with me all summer long and beat me up and taught me a lot of things. And I'm so blessed and thankful for his contribution to my life and my basketball career as well.
All right.
So we're watching as we're talking. This is the opening day of the field of 64 in the tournament. Now it's a field of 68, but everybody ignores the first couple, the first 4 games that happened earlier this week, or the first 4 teams, the first 2 games, I suppose it is.
It's kind of watered down since we played.
Yeah, well, so that's what I was going to say is in 76 when you guys won the championship, it was 32,
32,
right?
correct.
Yeah, so this whole week, the weekend didn't even start till next Saturday, I guess,
That's
right?
right.
So what was it? In that era, they weren't quite into the domes, right? So you were playing in the Market Square Arena type, the full NBA basketball arenas,
Correct.
for the tournament. So
Correct.
you're playing in front of crowds that were similar to what you were playing at home in college. If you went to Ohio State or at IU or somewhere.
Correct. We won the national championship in Philadelphia at the Spectrum, where the Philadelphia 76ers played.
Very cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was probably.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that you guys were playing in professional stadiums then.
Yeah, I want to say Market Square in Indianapolis held it in about 80, somewhere in that range. The first time that Market Square Arena, 80, 81, somewhere in there.
I don't.
And then I think 91 is the first time they went from that to now they play in these big domes.
Yeah.
They played in the RCA Dome. They played at at Lucas Oil and the Alamo Dome and all those arenas.
Didn't realize that it had changed so much.
The tournament.
Cool.
Well, I think in 1987 when IU won, they won again in Philadelphia at the Spectrum as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a young boy.
That was Steve Alford's team.
Young boy. My dad was worked for General Motors in Syracuse, New York, so we lived in a Syracuse suburb. And my dad was not a Keith Smart fan.
I was still.
That was a great shot.
I remember how upset he was. I think I was 4 years old at that time. Yeah. So in our promo that Dakota put together, you're on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Do you still have a copy?
Well, I was on there 3 or 4 to 5 different times. So, yeah,
you got the whole
in the archive somewhere.
You were on multiple times.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, when you win the national championship, you get in there. When you're the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, you get on there.
Yeah.
You got some opportunities.
You're way younger than I am. So, I mean, you're into this social media and this all this technology and stuff. We had newspapers. You know what a newspaper is?
Yeah, I don't get a hard copy
newspapers
anymore.
and magazines.
If they're just in the archives, what you need to do is find the old copies and bring them over to Scott Frost at Frost Framing and have him make you a display.
There you go.
Got to get them framed up and put up on the wall.
Nice plug for our landlord, Scott Frost.
So, tell us about the NBA draft process as you're coming out of IU. ESPN wasn't quite around yet, so you didn't have ESPN in your living room recording, watching as it went down. What were you at home? Were you in New York City?
I signed 2 weeks prior to the NBA draft.
Really? You already knew?
I already knew. I had already signed with the Milwaukee Bucks and everything before the draft even took place. So, it's not all the pomp and circumstance and all the glam, all the lime and glitter and everything with the way it is today, with all the television and radio and internet and all that. It was just kind of a matter of fact thing.
Did you just go work out for the Bucks? They said, yep. And they said, we're going to sign you basically. And that was the That was the extent of it?
Well, it was more complicated than that because the last 4 games of my senior year, I took a charging foul up at Purdue against Joe Barry Carroll, and it injured my back. So I missed the last 4 games of my senior season, and because of that back injury, it sent up concerns for whether or not I would be healthy enough to play in the NBA, and if the Milwaukee Bucks were willing to take a chance at selecting me number 1. And so I had to go through several physical examinations. I think there was 3 or 4 of them, different doctors to make sure that they weren't taking the word of one doctor, but all of them had to agree that I was healthy enough. And so that's kind of what happened there. And then once they found out that I was okay to go ahead and play, they made me an offer, and we went ahead and signed 2 weeks prior to the NBA draft.
So you going back to your college career, you weren't just good at basketball. You were 2-time academic All Big Ten. Kind of explain to me what that is.
2-time academic All Big Ten and 2-time academic All American, where your grade point average had to be, and I don't know what the limits were back then, but I think I ended up with a 3.57 average out of a 4.0. So you had to be an excellent student. And when you think about it, I graduated on time in 4 years. Okay. I have an issue with this 5 years and 6 years that these guys are playing now, but, it was very demanding. So you had to get your grades, and coach expected you to be in classes. We didn't skip classes.
Did you go to Kelly school? Did you be a business degree or what?
My minor in business.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had some business classes in the Kelly school.
Yeah.
But I majored in management of public parks and recreation administration with a minor in business, which basically gave me a degree that I could run public parks and recreational facilities.
That's neat. Monty Conley, teacher Monty Conley, is in the chat. He said you were also on the cover of Car and Driver. Is that true? Or is he just pulling my leg?
I don't know.
Monty remembers it, so it must be true.
He says, and the cover of Car and Driver.
Okay.
So I don't know.
You
don't remember a lot of covers.
You don't remember doing a cover with a Ferrari or a Corvette or something awesome?
Well, they don't make them for us normal size people. Well, they're great vehicles, but they just don't make them for us normal size.
Normal size people.
Right.
There should be an asterisk by that if you could.
Just like on airplanes, they don't make those seats for us normal size.
What do you drive? I assume it's not a Miata.
Cadillac.
A Cadillac.
Yeah.
You take the
2008 DTS.
Did you take the front seat out and you just sit in the back?
No, the seat goes back far enough, and I also have a Chevrolet Silverado 4-wheel drive pickup.
Very cool. Very cool. So, you go, you get your first NBA contract. You go report for duty for the Bucks. I assume you're playing on the Robert Indiana court down there.
Correct.
So the Newcastle Indiana guy is on the Mecca court.
Right.
So
very colorful. In fact,
we had it. Aaron had it on the show.
Aaron had it on the show. It's a beautiful floor. Yep. He had beautiful artwork as well.
Very cool. So you want to tell us about the first game and the you would have made Sports Center. You and the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the little, there was a little pushing and shoving, and then you got popped apparently.
Well, I got sucker punched. Is what if you mean by pop? Yeah, I got sucker punched, but. If you look on YouTube, it's going to show me elbowing Kareem and him falling back, looking both ways to see the officials, and then he runs and comes up behind me and sucker punches me. But what they don't show, it makes me look like the villain that I elbowed him first.
He started it, I'm sure.
But, absolutely. Yeah. Well, he had elbowed me several times prior to that, and I was my first game, and so he hadn't scored yet. I had scored and out-rebounded him. And the ball, I elbowed at him, just saying, hey, if you're going to elbow me, I'm going to elbow you back. I'm going to stand my ground. And I was watching the ball come up the floor. And next thing you know, he comes up from behind me and sucker punches me. He never would fight me straight up. And he had done the same thing to about 4 or 5 other people as well prior to me.
Wow. Welcome to the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah. He hit me so hard he broke his hand.
Yeah.
He didn't knock me out, but I did see birdies and stars and stuff like that.
Yeah, he shattered.
But I will
his hand.
say-
he was out for 2 months, right?
And he got fined the largest fine in the NBA at that time, and I think he missed 21 games or something like that.
Was there ever any relationship after that, or was he?
We continued to play against
Yeah.
each other. I mean, I played for 12 years
Right.
or 11 years, and I played against Kareem probably 6-7 of those years before he retired. So yeah, we met twice a year. Once in LA and once in Milwaukee or Detroit, wherever I happened to be. And then in 2013, our team, our 1976 undefeated national championship team, was named the greatest team in NCAA history, the 75 years. And we were at the Final Four in Atlanta, and our team was being honored and everything. And Kareem happened to be up at the NCAA suite, and I walked in, and we met eyes. He stood up, walked towards me. I walked towards him. We shook hands. Now, this was 40 some years later,
Right?
Okay, and we talked and reminisced and everything. And he was kind enough to, excuse me, he was kind enough to sign autographs for my grandchildren. He was writing some children's books at the time, and actually sent a book for each one of my 3 grandchildren at the time that he autographed. And
That's cool.
We never talked about the incident. We just
It wasn't shake hands. Remember whenever you punched me and broke your hand on my jaw?
I mean, my gosh, that was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's the press, the liberal press and media that they can't.
The fake news.
The fake news, exactly. They've got to sensationalize stuff, and the problem is they don't tell the whole truth. They only want to show what they want to show. They showed me, Elbow, and Kareem. They didn't show the real story.
Yep.
And I have a serious problem with that, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. I mean, it's the liberal press and the media, and that's what you're going to get.
There's probably a whole lot more beat reporters that followed the Lakers around than followed the Bucks around, right? So the ability to get the story out or get the narrative out probably came quicker from Los Angeles' side.
Well, Los Angeles compared to Milwaukee is
Exactly.
is a big difference.
Exactly. The was there always? Do you feel like even in that era the bias was there towards the Bostons and the New Yorks and the Los Angeleses versus?
Of course,
versus
because
the Pacers and the Bucks and the Cleveland and those Midwestern
The
teams.
middle of America.
absolutely, because they were the elite teams back then.
Yeah.
So they got the most press and the media coverage.
Yeah.
So you spent 11 years playing in the NBA, and I had a question I was thinking about earlier. We're kind of starstruck with you being here, and some of our viewers are probably as well too, especially with the local history.
Thank you.
When you made it to the NBA, was there just a huge personality that you were starstruck yourself, that you were playing on the court with this person?
No,
That you can think of?
I wasn't starstruck.
Yeah.
I was honored that I was considered to be one of the greatest basketball players in the country or in the world, because NBA players are, and to be able to have an opportunity to play on the same court with and against the greatest players in the world was a dream come true.
Yeah.
I wasn't awestruck because I knew that I had an opportunity to play. God put me in that position and allowed me the success and the notoriety and the information that was available at the time to have that opportunity. And so it was a tremendous blessing, and I took it as such. As I was I worked hard on the basketball court in college and high school. I had people that worked with me to help me develop my talents and abilities and use my God-given talents and abilities. So it was a dream come true for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for asking.
That's really cool.
The NBA, how was the culture different? From playing the collegiate era where it's there's no money. It's you're playing for your school and your team and each other to the NBA where it's a little bit more transient. Was it how did you feel that culture matched up? And was it joyful? I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
At first, it was glamorous, but it became a job. I mean, it was a job. And in fact, in college, I had a job. My job was to get my education, get my grades, and play basketball. And so, even though we weren't paid to play in college, we were being paid our scholarship to play. And so then when you went to the NBA, it was a job. Yeah. And I took my job seriously and so thankful and blessed that I had an opportunity to play 11 years. I had an opportunity to play 5 more years in Italy, but my daughters were at the age at that time where they were starting to become involved in basketball and their school activities. And it was time. I had lived my dream playing pro basketball, and it was time for me to focus on my 4 daughters.
Time for the family, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about you playing basketball in Italy. How did that come about? How were you approached to go and play basketball in Italy? Was it something that you sought out to go play there? How did you make the transition?
Well, I retired from the NBA and I moved to Bloomington, built a home. I was in my home for about 2 weeks, and I got a call from an agent that there was teams in Italy that was interested in me coming to Italy and playing, and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I went to Italy and
in pure Italian style.
Yeah, and
all of the pizza and breadsticks.
Well, I tell you what, the Northern Italian cuisine was fabulous.
I can't even
I
imagine.
love Italian food, but. So anyway, upon them contacting me, my wife and I went to Italy and toured it and met with the owners and the team members and everything, and felt that it was an opportunity to take advantage of. And so I signed with the team in Cantu. Cantu is a small farming community that made furniture, and the owner was big into all types of beverages and what have you. And it was about 40 miles north of Milan in northern Italy. And the casa, or the house that they had me live in, I could stand on my porch and I could look out and I could see the Italian Alps and the Swiss Alps. And we were only about 40 minutes from Lugano, Switzerland. So it was a neat experience. I did bring my family over for about 2 months. My wife was pregnant at the time with our youngest one, and her last travel date was December 31st, and so she was over there with with 3 of my daughters, and being pregnant then until December 31st, where they came back to Indiana. And I was there for till February, and had injured myself. I had injured my knee, and I kept playing on it to the point where I couldn't play anymore. I had to have surgery. So I came back to Indiana, had surgery just in time to be here for the birth of my 4th child.
Hey,
and Ashley, who ended up being a 2-time All-American volleyball player at Indiana University.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and she played professionally for 7 years.
Oh, she played professional volleyball for 7 years.
Yes.
Is she still in Newcastle? Can we get her on the show too?
She played a year in Puerto Rico, 4 years in Germany, and 2 years in Peru.
So, now, real quick, now, isn't she back to coaching at IU volleyball?
No, she's not. She assisted for a couple of years.
Okay,
but she's not involved with the IU program now.
So she probably might have even been the assistant when our very own Newcastle Caitlin Cox went down there.
Caitlin Cox came and played a couple of years with Ashley.
Yeah,
before Ashley, absolutely. Caitlin Cox, great player, and won the state championship.
with Newcastle. Yeah, graduated in 2008. That's the year I graduated. So,
Yeah.
So, did you watch the great basketball movie Tropic Thunder with Will Ferrell in the ABA?
I did not.
I was going to try to get you a comparison between Tropic Thunder and playing in Italy versus playing in the NBA.
Well,
it's going to be some assigned homework for you now. You got to go get a copy of Tropic Thunder and watch it.
There's
a man was traded for a washing machine in that movie.
Was it? There's really no comparison with the NBA, although there's several NBA players that played over there. I played against guys like Artis Gilmore, Bob McAdoo, Michael Ray Richardson, Gene Banks. I mean, there was a lot of Jeff Turner. I mean, there was a lot of NBA players that played in Italy, so it was very competitive. Italian fans are much like Indiana basketball fans. They're just they love basketball, and they even painted up the town when we played rival teams. They would see us off as we'd go on a road trip and what have you, and they treated us like kings. Of course, when I went over there, I didn't go over as an ugly American. I went over there to live their culture and speak their language. And
you spoke Italian?
I learned to speak Italian. I carried a translation book with me all the time, and the Italian people loved the fact that I tried to speak their language.
Integrate.
Exactly. And, a lot of them, of course, knew English, and they were willing to help me communicate with them. And it made it so much easier for a person like myself coming and playing as a player because the coach spoke Italian and a lot of the players, but they also spoke English. But I was able to associate with basketball and the different names and titles and
you learn what a foul is real quick.
And exactly
what the pick and roll is in Italian.
Right. And so it was easy to understand, except when the coach got too excited and started talking so fast I couldn't understand him. I'll never forget the time that we went to play Turkey, and the arena that we played in was amazing. It was smoke filled and just dingy and gray and dark, and in every aisle you'd look up and there would be a military police officer with an Uzi and a guard dog, a German Shepherd. That's how radical it was over there. And we were winning the game down towards the end, about 4 or 5 minutes to go. And the coach called timeout, and he's all excited and everything. And I didn't understand what he was telling us to do. And so I get a rebound and start to take the ball back up and shoot it. And one of my teammates takes the ball from me and almost hands it to the other player. Well, the idea is that, hey, we want to keep this close. We want to lose, but we want to keep it close and all. And so
you want to lose close.
Lose, exactly, because we were playing the Cup of Courage, or the Cup of Champions, what it was called. And I had never been in a situation where I was asked to throw a game.
Yeah. All of a sudden you're playing for the Washington Generals now.
Exactly. Well, my own teammates were taking the ball from me and not letting me have it. So it was quite an experience. But we did get out of there, even though we had lost by a few points. They threw all kinds of things at us, food and, you name it. And we were lucky to get out of there. That's how radical it was. And then, of course, when Turkey came to Italy, we beat them like 35, 40 points.
It was like that when my brother played at Laurel, on a road game down in Laurel in Fayette County. Those guys were, it was a rough crowd.
So it was very comparable.
It's exactly the same. You feel like you need armed guards to get out alive. I've been to a lot of gyms where that sketchiness has gone down. So Dakota has found the cover you were on of Car and Driver, and this was May of 1983. Yes. You're a Detroit Piston.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
You and the guys, and a brand new, looks like a Chrysler Town and Country minivan.
Yeah,
that you probably could have purchased. And
at the very top of the magazine, they are advertising brand new technology for radar detection.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I forgot about that.
Another fun question that Kirk Davis of Newcastle, big Newcastle basketball supporter, wanted me to ask tonight was, how in the hell did you play in those short shorts? Because,
What I don't understand is how guys can play in these shorts here. I mean, they're like they're not shorts; they're like knickers, But I mean, we had free range.
yeah.
No restrictions.
I believe that totally. I really do. I believe that it would be easier to play in the shorter
Oh,
shorts.
absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So after the NBA, you started a business career, and you left Newcastle for a while to do this. You came back. What's the post basketball life like?
When I retired from the NBA, I went to Italy. And, when I retired from the NBA, I went to Bloomington, built a home, and lived there. Spent a year in Italy. Came back, lived in Bloomington until my girls were all grown. All four of my daughters played college basketball or volleyball on scholarships. My oldest daughter, Andrea, played at IUPUI. Elizabeth, my number 2 daughter, played at Grand Canyon University out in Phoenix, Arizona. And then Jenny, my number 3 daughter, played at Vincennes. She was on a basketball and volleyball scholarship. And then, of course, Ashley played at IU as a 2-time All-American volleyball player. And I stayed around Bloomington until Ashley graduated from Indiana University. In fact, believe it or not, at the time when Ashley was a senior in high school, I was hoping that she would go to Purdue and play volleyball up there because the tremendous success that Dave has up at Purdue.
Very cool.
But she decided to go to Indiana, and that was fine. So I stayed in Bloomington until 2000. She graduated in 2010. I moved to Brown County and lived there for about 5 years before I moved back here to Bloomington or to Newcastle in 2015 to be closer to my parents who are ailing and have some physical injuries that we've been helping take care of.
So you've talked about Bloomington. Hold up your hand there a little bit for the camera. You're wearing a ring that has some crimson on it. What's that all about?
That happens to be our national championship ring.
It still looks very shiny.
Do you wear it every day, or is it because the tournament's on and you're gonna be hanging out with us?
No, I wear it a lot, all the time. The only time I don't wear it is when I go to bed, or if I'm using my hands to do something physical with it. It's a great conversation piece. People like to see it. People who are fans like to look at it, and I've had a lot of people put it on and have their picture taken with it. So it's a great conversation piece, and it's also an opportunity for me to show my appreciation to all the tremendous people who supported me in my career, not only in Newcastle but at Indiana University and my entire career. So I've been blessed by that, and it's fun. It's a great conversation piece as well.
That's awesome. So you've been involved a lot ever since you've been out of playing professional sports. You've been involved in athletics ever since, right?
In some way, shape, or form. You all heard of McCracken basketball camp, or Dave McCracken, the great basketball coach at Indiana University prior to Coach Knight, and he was on the 40 championship team in the 1953 as a coach at Indiana University. He had a basketball camp called McCracken basketball camp. And as in 1976, that was my first year to attend McCracken basketball camp, and now it's been 43 years, and I've been there every year as a headliner, longer than all the McCrackens have been there. So, I'm honored and blessed by that. It's a great basketball camp, and they do a great job of working with kids and teaching kids. And then, of course, I've spoken and done a lot of different camps over the years. Currently, we're in our 11th season. My partner, Steve Stremming, out of Indianapolis, and I started the Indiana Class Basketball All-Star Classic, where we honor all classes of basketball, both boys and girls. And we showcase these kids to college coaches all across the country. We stream our games live over the internet. We contact about 8,000 different coaches that are D2, D3, NAIA junior colleges. Christian colleges, black colleges, and universities, and let them know about the schedule of our All-Star games, which is held at Anderson University. Our first 5 years was here at the Field House. They just got out of hand on the cost, didn't they? The athletic director just caused problems, and you had to take your business to Anderson. Well, right, that's part of it. But
I'm just making it up. I don't know.
No, the biggest issue was that college coaches wanted to see our all-stars playing on a college floor in a college venue, so it was more conducive. Anderson University is just a fabulous location, great facility. Central part of the state, easy access. I mean, there's just so many positive things, and they were very supportive of our cause as being a 501c3 not-for-profit, and the fact that we helped kids get scholarships. To give you an example, last year we had 3 kids come in with scholarships, and that was we have it over Father's Day weekend. It's Friday and Saturday, and then by the time kids started school in August, we had 37 kids with scholarships.
That's amazing.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's exciting because these kids deserve it, and the reason why we started the Indiana Class Basketball All-Star Classic was because the IHSAA didn't do anything about the All-Star game.
Balancing
they
out
just
for
kept
everybody.
they just kept it the Indiana Kentucky All-Star game, which allowed you 12 players, 12 boys and 12 girls, so 24 players, and most of those players are 4A kids. Yep. You have a few 3A kids, but it shunned all the smaller classes. And after about 9 years, 8-9 years, we decided we're going to change that, and that's why we started the.
So do you get the coaches to show up, or do you do video, or how does the
combination? We stream all our games live over the internet. Coaches are all made aware of when our event's going to be. Plus, broadcastsport.net archives those games so coaches can go back and look at them. Because there's a lot of things going on during that time. A lot of tournaments, a lot of Nike tournaments, AAU tournaments, and what have you. So by us streaming those games and having them archived, it gives college coaches an opportunity to look at our kids here in Indiana that are not only really good and talented kids, but great quality of kids as well.
So you brought up
character.
You brought up class basketball. That's the first of the 3 radioactive questions in Indiana. So I'll ask them all of you back to back to back.
Okay.
You happy with class basketball?
Well, you know what the new saying, what a Hoosier is?
What's a Hoosier?
A Hoosier is a basketball fan that doesn't believe in class basketball.
I was going to say that'll light the phones up.
But yeah, that's fine. It is what it is. It's here to stay. We know that, and that's why we made why we created the Indiana Class Basketball All-Star Classic. So our kids at the different levels of classes can be exposed to an all-star opportunity.
Creates opportunities for all of them. Sir. The other side is you kind of touched on it earlier. By attending Indiana University, you got your degree and you were on scholarship. There are folks that say college basketball or college football athletes should be paid. Have you weighed in on that? Is it do you have an opinion? Do you look at it and say, everybody?
My opinion doesn't mean anything. They're going to do what they're going to do. The NCAA, the IHSAA, right, wrong, or indifferent, and it is what it is. I mean, I invested. I didn't spend. I invested 4 years at Indiana University. Never got paid. I had a summer job that I had to work. I had chores I had to do before I could go out and play basketball. And if we could do it back then, there's no reason why kids can't do it now. The way I look at it. But it is what it is, and so be it.
The final
one of the other things that I'm involved with is an after school program that we started. It's called Bibles for Ballers after school program, and what we do is we work with kids grades 2 through 8, and we're in several public schools, Shenandoah, Daleville. We've had Concordia High School up in Fort Wayne. We've done LaPel. We've done a lot of different schools here. And so what we do is we work with Pendleton. We work with these kids, and the kids here in Indiana are really horrible fundamentally. And so we see a real need to help kids with fundamentals. So our first hour of this 2-hour after school 3-day camp, we spend an hour each day at the beginning of the session teaching the kids fundamentals. And then after that, we have a 15-20 minute Bible lesson, or a speaker come in that will share their testimony or talk about their faith. And then we, the last 45 minutes or an hour, we'll spend with the kids playing games, all sorts of games, 5-on-5, 4-on-4, 3-on-3, knockout or dribble, whatever the kids want to do, whatever excites them. We give each kid a Bible. It's a Zondervan new international version. It's got a basketball cover, and the kids just absolutely love that, and even take it to school with them. And then we also give them a T-shirt.
So is that any relation to? Do you guys do anything with FCA? Are a lot of your students that are in Bibles for Ballers, are they involved in FCA, or is it two totally different things?
The Bibles for Ballers is mostly elementary kids, grades 2 through 8. We are very involved with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes because of my involvement. In 1971, I was one of 5 athletes that were awarded a scholarship to attend a Fellowship of Christian Athletes national conference here in Newcastle. Or it wasn't here in Newcastle, but I was here in Newcastle then as a sophomore in high school. And that's where, I knew who God was, knew who Jesus was, but I didn't have a personal relationship with him. But it was through the Fellowship of Christian Athletes that I accepted Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior, and I came back, was very active in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes huddle here in high school. And then, of course, when I went to Indiana University, I was president there for 4 years.
Oh, that's
and was named. In high school, I was named Indiana State FCA Athlete of the Year, and then in college, the co-athlete of the year with Archie Griffin from Ohio State. So I've been very active and involved with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. The Fellowship of Christian Athletes are very involved with our Indiana Class Basketball All-Star Classic, and we give out a Kent Benson Fellowship of Christian Athletes Mental Attitude Award to one member of each team. Of course, then we also have a Most Outstanding Player for the game. So, been very involved with FCA, and so thankful for what it's done for my life and many of the kids and athletes that I've been able to touch through that.
Yeah, cool.
Very, very neat. Now, the last Indiana hot topic was going to be daylight saving time, where 2 weeks ago we just went through daylight saving time. So I was going to ask your opinion on that too. Yeah, class basketball, paying the players, and daylight saving.
Frankly, my dear Scarlett, no, I have it doesn't bother me either way.
Yeah. Yep. So you've seen an awful lot of parts of the world. You've had a chance to travel and been in the big cities, and you're back in your hometown. Wanted to talk about what you thought about how things are going here. It feels like to me, as a guy who's run for office, and I always say I live here on purpose. There's some exciting stuff going on in the community and things that are coming. I wanted your opinion on what you think of Newcastle and the direction it's going.
Well, first of all, one of the reasons why I came back, of course, I talked about my parents and all that was a big reason. But the reason why, I could have chosen to live outside of Newcastle and still be able to assist my parents, but I chose to come back to Newcastle, my hometown, because of the tremendous leadership that's been taking place with Greg York and the city council now that has, they're my age. We all grew up, and we remember what Newcastle was like when we were growing up. And I really believe that they're trying to bring it back to like it was back then, with all the great industry that they're bringing in, the merchants and what have you, the cleaning up the downtown. I mean, you think about, and I hate saying this, but it kind of developed a loser mentality and a negative mentality once Chrysler left and World Bestest and all these other companies left, and it was just like a defeatist attitude. And during that time, I didn't, even though I loved Newcastle, I didn't want to come back here. I didn't want to raise my family. But now, and I'm a conservative and a constitutional conservative, and I like what I see here. Even though the majority of it's Democrats and
most of the city's
in position,
Democrats,
but they're conservative Democrats. They're what the old Democrat Party used to represent. They're not liberals.
They would be hardcore Republicans in California.
Well,
so national politics and local politics are kind of different. That's what we've talked about. And one of the things that this show has been good for is getting folks talking to each other that are on all kinds of different sides. Because from a local aspect, I don't care what you think about, federal taxation or whatever else. Cities, you want to make sure that you've got good paved roads and people have got jobs and the trash gets picked up and the water works. Those basic infrastructure things we can all agree on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I just have to say this, and Mayor York, Greg York, he's a year younger than I am, and several guys and gals that are on the city council, Rex Peckinpah and Lynn Purdue, and I mean I can go down the line there. I appreciate what they're doing. They're working to bring this community back, and yeah, they've got their challenges. Yeah, they've got their oppositions and everything. But you know what? It doesn't matter who's in office. There's always going to be opposition. Somebody's going to talk bad about you. But I want to say this. Thank you all for what you're doing for Newcastle and this community. And I know you got your challenges out there, and it takes time to not only rebuild, but to reestablish what Newcastle really stood for. And I see you doing that, and I want to thank you and wish you continued success, and God bless you all.
Yeah, they got a lot of work ahead, but they're moving.
Look how far they've come.
Exactly.
I mean, he's got a long way to go, but look how far they've come.
Yeah. Since I was in high school, which was 5 years ago. Like whenever I graduated.
You are a baby, aren't you?
Yeah. I graduated high school in 2014. So 5 years ago.
Part of the premise of this show is we call Dakota the world's youngest millennial. He is literally the youngest millennial that exists, and I'm one of the oldest. So I was born in 83. Dakota's born in 96. So we kind of span that generation of people. Mm-hmm. And it's. But
yeah, just since then, Newcastle has cleaned up a lot.
Well, you should have remembered that. Car and Driver magazine.
Yeah, it was 2 months before my birth. I can tell you that Tom Sneva won the 1983 Indy 500, but I past that I don't know. All right, so we need to talk a little bit about the NCAA tournament, then we'll start to wrap things up. How's your bracket looking?
You know what? I've been so busy, I haven't really had an opportunity. I will tell you, my Final Four, I've got Michigan State. Okay. I've got Gonzaga.
Yep.
All right. I've got Tennessee, and I got Duke.
That's pretty solid.
So
pretty solid. I've made a general rule in life that I will pick Michigan State every year, no matter what, just because every other year, every 2 or 3 years, they're in the Final Four. So I'm like, the hell with it. I've been burned too many times by Michigan State. I finally learned my lesson, and I just every single year, no matter what they do.
You were really burnt by them 2 years ago.
I know. And no matter what, Michigan State's my champion every year. That's just that's a rule of thumb. Every time.
I've got Duke winning it all. That Zion Williamson is just an animal.
A lot of people in our impressive. So for the show, the Patreon group, Chase Payton set us up a fantasy league, I guess, bracket that all the Patreon members can fill out for free. So we were looking at that today, and there's like 3 of us that don't have Duke picked.
That's because you're all homers, man. You have no originality whatsoever. Oh, Coach K is going to win. Shocking. So far, I'm in second place in our bracket. I got there's, as of this recording, it's about 8:15 on Thursday night. So it's the first day of the field of 64, and there was an upset.
Fifth.
Well, it says fifth, but I don't know. There's about a 9-way tie for first place.
It says fifth. Well, that's what it is.
There are 6 teams tied right now, I guess is what's happening. But I did have the 5-12 upset with Murray State, so I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I was surprised about that though.
Yeah, Marquette's done.
Marquette's been good all season long, and I was surprised about that. I lost that game.
Kirsten Kronk has a question for you. She wants to know if there's a player that you think was particularly that was overrated or underrated. Anybody that sticks out to you as far as your career spans?
Well, of course, over the course of my career,
you saw a lot of players.
Saw a lot of players, played with a lot of players, played against a lot of players, and in the era of Dr. J and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Moses Malone and Akeem Olajuwon,
Larry Bird.
Irvin Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. I mean, there's just so many great players. Now, I didn't get to play against or with Oscar Robertson or Will Chamberlain or Bill Russell, but when you look at all those guys that I've just mentioned here, based on statistics and everything, Oscar Robertson was probably the greatest player when you look at his statistics over his entire career.
This is obviously,
and go to the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. You can look at his statistics and everything. It'll tell you a lot about that.
Did you play Robert Parrish? Was he with the Celtics when you were there?
Celtics was Bird and McHale and Robert Parrish and Dennis Johnson. Yeah,
I'm just old enough to remember some of the guys, a few of the guys that at the tail end of their careers. My NBA visibility probably starts in 92, 93 as I'm an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid. So I remember, obviously Michael Jordan at the beginning of his time and the end of the Pistons and Dennis Rodman playing for before he played for the Bulls, playing for San Antonio and then obviously the Pacers. And
I played with great players. I played with Isaiah Thomas, Vinnie Johnson, at Detroit, at Milwaukee, it was Marcus Johnson and Junior Bridgman and then I go to Utah and play with Carl Mailman Malone and John Stockton. And then in Cleveland, it was Larry Nance and Mark Price and Brad Daugherty. I mean, I played with a lot of great players and that's just some of them.
Mark Price was a hell of a shooter.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Number 25.
Now, do you still keep in contact with any of these guys, like on a daily basis or monthly? Or
no,
you guys kind of just go your own way.
We have a mutual admiration and respect for one another. Occasionally through some of the social media, like not Facebook, but through LinkedIn. Occasionally, through the NBA Retired Players Association. Occasionally, but Bobby Wilkerson and Bobby grew up in Anderson. Played at Anderson Madison High, was my teammate at Indiana University. We're great friends and have been friends, and since for about 50 years. We played against each other in junior high and against each other in high school. Played with each other at IU, and then against each other in the NBA. But have maintained our friendship for over 50 years, and also our business associates as well and best friends.
That's awesome.
Does Brad Daugherty take you to any NASCAR races?
Brad is a big NASCAR fan.
He's an owner, I think.
I wouldn't doubt that. Brad is a great guy. Just he loves the game, loves the race, and loves the outdoors. He's an outdoorsman and just a first class human being as well.
Very cool. Well, we're getting to that point in the show where we probably need to start wrapping things up and see where things go. As always, give everybody a chance for final thoughts. We'll start with Kade and Chris, and then work our way around the room.
I'll switch gears just a little bit. Pretty far off topic from basketball, but
how dare you?
March 26th is the deadline for the bump stock ban. So if you're a gun owner out there and you've got a bump stock, you've got until March 26th to get rid of it, destroy it, turn it into a federal agency,
have a
report it stolen.
Yeah, there's it's estimated there's 500,000 gun owners out there that have one or more.
Yeah, and they think they're going to get all of those off the.
Some of those guys, I'm sure, have had boating accidents where they've lost them in boating accidents, which you have until March 26th to have a boating accident. Or you face 10 years and $250,000 in fines. And
That's the most ridiculous.
Our jail's already full. I don't know where we're going to put all these criminals.
So by the stroke of a pen, there's that many felons across the nation.
Crazy.
500,000 people.
Or more.
One signature.
Yep.
When are you guys going to start selling tomatoes down there, up the road?
Normally not until July.
When's produce come around?
End of June, July.
June, July.
But you guys are still selling meat.
You're
All
selling
of your,
steak.
your beef right now.
Meat year round, for sure.
He's so dense, man. I'm trying to give him the plug, and he's just like, oh, no. Oh, hell, we're close to August.
That's not my part of the farm, man.
They do have some really good donuts there, though.
Kid's like, I just worry about the crops.
Also, yeah. Also, I do have a Harley for sale. If
Are you still selling that?
if
Donnie
anyone
Baker
out
and
there
his
is
boat.
looking
You're
for a
still
road
selling
glide,
Harley.
a really nice road glide. It's a
If that
2012.
if someone buys it and because you're offering $100 to the person,
Mention
that
my
can get
name,
you a
producer
buyer.
Chris Guffey.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
buy it, mention one of these guys' names, and I'll give them $100.
No, if you buy it and you mention Boss Hog of Liberty,
Mention
then it
Boss
goes
Hog.
towards us getting 3 cameras set up in
Exactly.
the studio.
If you buy it and mention the show, Kate will just buy the cameras.
Exactly.
We're set. Done.
I absolutely will. Honestly, I'd like to get rid of it.
That could be a business write-off as
Ken,
well.
can I talk
Yes.
you? Can I talk you into a motorcycle? Producer Chris.
The only thing that I really have is can't mention the city council, and I would just like to iterate to all of our viewers who already possibly know that I am actually running for city council, Ward 3 against Jerry Walden.
In the same race as, not against. Let's work on
Yes,
the messaging here.
I'm sorry,
Come
not
on.
against. We were both interviewing for the same job, so
There you go.
Throw the bums out. That's what Chris says.
throw them all out.
All right. Mr. Benson, any final thoughts? Anything we missed? Anything you need to promote?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you all for the opportunity. I'd like to thank your listeners and viewers for their tremendous support over the years, allowing me the opportunity to share a little bit about my life and the successes, but most importantly, the people who've been very instrumental in my life, and also the fact that the charities that I'm involved with, there's several others, but the 2 primarily is Bibles for Ballers. We're always looking for people to assist us in supporting that as a 501c3 that's pending, and then also the Indiana Class Basketball All-Star Classic, where we honor all classes of basketball, both boys and girls, and that is a 501c3 as well. So thank you all for this opportunity, and God bless each and every one of you and your families and the listeners, and as well as Newcastle, Indiana.
Well, very cool. Dakota Davis.
All right. My final thoughts are, first of all, thank you, Kent, for coming on. It was really cool. Really cool to hear your stories and everything that you had to, all of your experience within the world of basketball.
Thank you.
Really neat. My final 4 picks, I have Duke, Gonzaga, Virginia, and North Carolina.
Can you tell me what state all 4 of those teams are even in there, Mr. I know
Of
what
course I
basketball
can.
is in March only.
I do have Gonzaga winning it all.
Of
I was
course-
telling
of course,
you-
Of course, they're from Utah.
Yeah, but Utah.
Where are they from?
I have no idea where Gonzaga's from. I know where. I literally watch basketball during March. That is when I watch college basketball. I get into it during tournament time though. I get into every sport during tournament time, but like if ahead of that, I have other things going on and I just don't really care as much. But tournament time, I get into it. I start watching the games.
All right.
But this is my 2nd year. I was telling you before the show started that I've had Gonzaga come on, winning it all.
I'll take your opinion
I
seriously
got
when you know,
close.
when you know where they play.
That's probably a good prediction. I was also telling you before the show that I basically just went through the list. It was like
You took the Vegas odds.
yeah, it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm laying down in bed, and I was like, I need to fill this out. So I just went through and I just saw what the odds are, and I just went through and just went with the odds, and then. Of course, as you get past the initial round of games, the starting games, there are no rounds because there's too many variables, right? So they don't obviously your odds pickers don't go
9
through and-
quintillion.
yeah, something like that. That's probably right.
It is
9
for the
quintillion.
Yeah, for the perfect bracket, there's 1 in 9 quintillion.
There's 1 in 9 quintillion. Is that serious? Are you being for real?
Yeah, if you stack that paper to paper, it'll go to Pluto, the former planet, 9 times. There and back.
There and back, 9 quintillion. Okay, but obviously that's way too many for even the greatest mathematicians in the world. So I was left to my own devices, and I was like, I have to pick.
It's eventually you just have to start keeping your own lies straight.
So you know what I did was ESPN's got this really nice thing where you can see basic stats. And basically I sat there for like an hour and a half and I'm looking up the stats for each individual team.
You're going to get beat by somebody to pick them on uniform color alone.
Your wife?
Anybody. I'm just.
Your wife is kicking butt in the group right now.
My wife is an IU graduate, man. She takes this very seriously.
Far
more than I do.
Surprised me.
I went to Indiana Wesleyan. We go, it's a commuter college. We don't have sports.
Zachary Bertram just said that Dan Cummins went to Gonzaga.
There you go. It's in Washington. Washington State, yes. The Pacific Northwest.
I had no idea.
John Stockton is a Gonzaga
from
guy.
Gonzaga.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just know that I've had them picked 2 years in a row based on their statistics alone.
They've been
it's a numbers game.
Spokane, Washington, I think.
Yeah, they've been like for about the last 15. They're kind of like Butler. Butler and Gonzaga are very similar in their mid-major to the top of the. Obviously, Gonzaga's maintained it better than Butler has, but over the course of time, they've gone from that mid-major to the top.
Sarah's mad at me now because I said
she
doesn't know anything more than uniform colors. He's the one that said uniform colors.
I wasn't inferring my wife. You thought I was talking about my wife. I meant Chase. All right. Final thoughts from me real quick. Some housekeeping things. Next week, the show is on Tuesday.
That's right.
Not on Thursday because you're jet setting off, I think. Is
I'm
that right?
leaving. Well, Thursday, yes. I will be on a cruise and not having to worry about anything while my brother-in-law stays at my house with my dogs.
And all of his guns.
He doesn't have guns. I have guns. But they're still in the same house, I guess. So yeah.
Meaning to say you don't have to worry about the Sulphur Springs blackouts? You got to turn on my power, huh?
So show next week is Tuesday. The following week, Dakota's not quite back yet, and I've got some travel coming up. So we're taking the first week of April off. First time since I don't even know when. You're going to have to go Boss Hog of Liberty list because we're taking the week off.
We took a week off last fall.
It's been
vacations
a while.
as well.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
So there you go. Thank you guys so much for listening and supporting the show. It's been our pleasure to have you on. This has been very fun, Kent. Mr. Benson, the IU legend, the NBA #1 overall draft pick, and hopefully going to be around Newcastle for a long time and helping us promote the hometown and bringing it back. It's a big part of what the show's been about, and we're excited that you're able to join us today.
Thank you. To God be the glory.
All right, we'll see you all next Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is part of the We Are Libertarians Network. I am Chris Spangle, and I am the founder of this network, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows, which you can find at WeAreLibertarians.com or by searching for these in your podcatcher. The flagship show is the We Are Libertarians podcast, where we apply libertarian principles to current events. The Brian Nichols Show is a conversation amongst Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, as they talk about what is happening in the news. And we have many other podcasts like The Chris Spangle Show, Upward, The Cost, Raw Audio Politics, Miranda's World, and Tad Talk, which is quite a ride. So check all of these out. Go to WeAreLibertarians.com and you can check out all of our great podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at WeAreLibertarians.com.